Meeting of the Buncombe County Planning Board that was scheduled for September 10th, 2012 at 9:30 a.m. The first item on our agenda is approve the agenda, and before we do so, I've had a request to adjust and modify the agenda, and that being moving item number 7, which is the discussion of inclusionary zoning language proposed by the Pisgah Legal Services Group this morning, moving it up to item number 4, and then everything would fall back in place accordingly. Is everyone okay with that? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Bernie and a second by Mr. Phillips, I think. Any further discussion about modifying the agenda this morning?
And what's the reason for that?
Conflict, scheduling conflict of some of the participants. Okay, thank you, Joe. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Okie doke. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes of our last meeting, which I think was early August? I wasn't here. Bernie, I believe you chaired that. Are there any corrections there too? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve as submitted.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sales. Any further discussion regarding the approval of the minutes from the meeting of August 8, 2012? Okay, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, as per our modified agenda, the next item on the agenda is the discussion of some inclusionary zoning language proposed by the Pisgah Legal Services, which would create a new zoning district or overlay. However, it works itself out mechanically going down the road. If you would, please come forward and introduce yourselves. And
Like it's up here at the table.
we would. And I think, check the mics if you don't mind.
Testing.
Testing.
Both of them on? Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you for giving us an opportunity to come in today. My name is Tom Gallagher. I'm with Pisgah Legal Services, and May Creddick is also here. May's been with Pisgah Legal for over a decade. I've been there for a couple of years in both a voluntary and a full-time capacity. And one of the issues that both of us deal with on a regular basis is housing. And what we have brought before you today is basically a proposal that is intended to increase the number of jobs in the county and increase the amount of housing available for workers and seniors in the county. And it's something that we believe has a desperate need here in Buncombe County. The job portion of this zoning overlay would be to create jobs for those constructing new housing in the county, and also housing for folks with jobs already in the county. And probably equally important is the county is obviously pushing to bring in new employers to the county, and we have to have a place for the workforce for those new employers who are coming in. And May will address that a little bit more in a moment. But we want to make sure that our workers in Buncombe County not only live here, but shop here and pay taxes here. And right now, there's simply not enough available housing in Buncombe County, and we both have seen that there are workers in Buncombe County who are living in Henderson County and Madison County and other surrounding areas as far down as Old Fort, simply because of the lack of adequate housing. I want to make sure that you also understand that what we're looking at here is not housing necessarily for the clients of Pisgah Legal Services, but middle income housing that is available. What the proposal seeks is to obtain more housing for folks earning 80% of the area median income. And what that is, 80% of the area median income, according to statistics that are provided to us by the county itself, is $46,100 per year. And I'll have a handout on that if that's a documentation that you need. Now, who earns, and that's for a family of four, who earns $46,100 a year? That's teachers, it's firefighters, it's police officers, it's construction, it's retail, it's cooks, it's the middle class or lower middle class, but it's people who are the workforce in the county. And one of the things that has shown up in the material that we have reviewed from the county, and what I'd refer to as the 2009 Buncombe County Housing Needs Assessment and Market Study, it indicated at that point in time that 41% of renters in Buncombe County were cost burdened. That's a term that's applied by HUD, and a cost-burdened renter is one that pays more than 30% of their household income on rent. And if 41% of the workers in Buncombe County are cost-burdened, or the renters in Buncombe County are cost-burdened, that's something that clearly needs a fix, and we believe that this proposal is one of the key elements in trying to fix that. And so, if folks are spending too much on rent, what is the consequence of that? Well, they're not spending that same money in the restaurants, in the theaters, in the big box stores, in the small shops in town. And so we want to see what we can do about improving the tax base too, because the county certainly picks up a hefty share of sales taxes from the folks that would otherwise be spending money on rent. If we can get them into a workforce or senior housing, that would be something that would be increasing the coffers of the county as well. In addition to working at Pisgah Legal Services, I also have the good fortune of owning a couple of stores in town. Or in the county. The Kilwin's Chocolate Fudge and Ice Cream store downtown in Asheville, and my wife and I have another one over in Black Mountain. And so we're aware, based upon our own employees, of the circumstances of what it takes to find affordable housing for workers. And we have one supervisor in our Asheville store that's living in Madison County specifically because she could not find adequate, affordable housing. Now, she's a supervisor, and she's paid more than a living wage, and she is having a tough time finding the housing that she needs, so she's moved further away than she necessarily needs to do. And May will have stories of other folks that she's familiar with in terms of workers in the county, too, and she'll touch on that in just a moment. One of the other statistics that comes out of the county's own comprehensive study back in 2009 is that we've been losing construction jobs since 2005. And I've got to assume that from 2009 to the present, we haven't been increasing at a rate that we need to. And so we have a lot of construction workers who are still out of work. Now, the zoning proposal itself, I'm sure that you've already had an opportunity to look through it, but let me just tell you what the highlights of that proposal are. It's really simple. What we would provide on a voluntary basis to any developer who wants to do so is a density bonus of up to 2.5 times the original density. So, for example, if the zoning classification allowed for 12 units per acre, this would increase it up to 30 units per acre, providing that 50% of the housing was affordable to those workers we've just talked about, the workers and the seniors who are at 80% of median income. Okay? And to determine what's affordable there, you take a look at 30% of median income, $46,000 for a family of four, and you multiply that out, and that comes down to a monthly income of $38,041, which means that 30% is approximately $1,150, just a touch below that in rent. And again, so we're not talking a low income poverty level here. We're talking about a workforce or senior citizen housing program. And I believe that each of you may have seen, and if not, I'll provide documentation as to what type of housing we're looking at, and projects that have built similar to this over the course of the last few years include the Weirbridge Village. And have you folks gotten those photographs? If I may, let me reach and go ahead and pick those up. Good morning.
Thanks.
Thanks, May. And as you take a look at this pamphlet, it has some of the information that I've already provided to you on there. There's some additional information as well. But the reason that I wanted you to take a look at this morning specifically was because we're talking about housing that is an asset in the community. The photographs of some of the housing that's built under similar circumstances that is available now for workforce housing in the area include Weirbridge Village, the Gibbons Estate for seniors, Crowell Park, Prospect Terrace, and Merritt Park. And when you look at any of the photographs there, I think you'd be proud to have those types of housing as a neighbor. And so it's, in essence, when you get right down to it, we're not seeing a downside here. We're only seeing an upside. And again, this is housing for those workers in our community who are generally in the middle class to lower middle class. And we believe that this is a proposal that is genuinely necessary here. I guess the last piece of information that I want to supply to you, if I haven't already, is that there is the estimate that 1,400 units per year need to be built in the county simply to provide adequate housing for the workers that we have now. And that's 1,400 units per year through the year 2020. Now, that statistic has been revised upward to 1,600 per year because we haven't met the need in the last 3 years since that study was completed. And what we have is a situation where now developers will have a choice. There's no mandate to this. Developers simply have a choice to add to density by having this bonus so that we can also increase the number of housing units available to those in the workforce. So I'll wrap up my part. We do want our workers to live here. We want them to shop here. We want them to be a participant within our community, and we want to be able to collect the taxes from those workers here in our community rather than send that tax money to someplace else. And as a result, we would ask that you approve this zoning overlay. May's now got some additional material and comments.
Again, I'm May Creddick. I'm a local housing attorney. I'm a native of Western North Carolina. And I've experienced firsthand the problems with the lack of workforce housing, both personally, as a child, as a young adult that's part of that workforce, and also as an employee that works with people that have housing problems. I've practiced law for 10 years in North Carolina, and I've seen firsthand a number of workforce and senior individuals who can't find housing in our area. Just last week, I worked with an elderly woman. She had recently lost her husband. She was in her 70s, and she was desperately trying to find housing before she was evicted from her housing, which was far above her income level. We contacted the local housing opportunities that we know for seniors in the area, and the wait lists are just too long. I work with individuals who commute from, one individual commutes from Haywood County, and he has done so for years because he has nowhere else to live in this area. I'm also married to a local teacher who teaches math and science at the middle school level. A number of his coworkers and his friends commute from Henderson County, Madison County, Haywood County, because the workforce housing here is just too expensive. So what I wanted to talk to you about are the trends that we've seen. We're seeing over time fewer and fewer options for our workforce for their housing here. We're also seeing fewer options for senior citizens for housing here. We're also seeing, on the good side, an increase of industry. We have Linmar that's coming to our area, and they're currently estimating an increase of 400 new jobs. We have New Belgian Brewery coming and an increase of 152 jobs. And we have Sierra Nevada Brewery coming with an increase of 200 to 300 jobs. And so this is a really wonderful new opportunity, because for all of those employees that are coming here, we can build housing and provide construction jobs for the individuals who can build that housing. Big number of the people that I see that are dealing with foreclosures, underemployment, evictions are our construction workers. So that's a wonderful opportunity for them. So we also see another opportunity here. If we can increase our workforce housing, both for all of those 800 plus new jobs that are coming, we can also increase housing for our essential workers, teachers like my husband, firefighters, police officers, nurses. These are people that we want living here, people that support our community and make up our community. In addition to that, the jobs that are created by these construction workers will create new housing for those construction workers. The construction would take place in suitable geographical areas. According to what you're seeing in this ordinance, this development would be along major transit corridors that already have in place the infrastructure that's needed for this type of housing. And then the most exciting part to me, and the part that I think can really affect our community and make us have a better community, is the ripple effect that this will have in so many ways. When you increase workforce housing, you provide a place for all of these incoming industry employees like Linmar and the new breweries to live here, work here, spend their money here, pay taxes here. It's beneficial for our community on that level. It also increases our tax base. When you heard Tom explain that if we have 12 units on a quarter acre, the taxes are much lower than if you have 2.5 times that amount. So you have more income for the county. You also have individuals who are living closer to work. They're spending less money on gas. They're spending less money on maintenance. They're having fewer budget trade-offs, which is a big problem for my clients that I see at Pisgah Legal Services. Do I pay for groceries this month? Do I pay the heat bill this month? Do I pay my rent? If you have less money on that commute, you have more money for your family's budget. And you also have more disposable income to spend in local stores. Because of that shorter commute, you have less pollution in the area. All of those friends of mine and coworkers who are commuting from Haywood, Madison, Henderson, if they live closer to work, they have a shorter commute. You have fewer incidents of car accidents and less congestion. And people who don't commute, and this is a big thing for me as a parent, they have more time with their families. If I'm not commuting at 45 minutes back and forth, I'm going to spend that extra 45 minutes with my child. And I'm not going to have to pay for after-school care, so I'm going to save money there too. So last but not least, this is perfectly legal. We're attorneys. We do our research. And there are other communities in North Carolina that have zoning ordinances just like this, and it's working just beautifully. We have contacted the UNC School of Government, who has reviewed this ordinance, and they've found it to be legal. This is a voluntary ordinance for density bonuses. The ordinance is a good, appropriate use of this county's zoning power, and it will create a healthier community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. In each of our packets that we received a week ago, I believe this piece was contained therein. I trust that everybody's had a chance to look at it before you got here today. I've looked at it extensively Friday as well as over the weekend, and I commend you and those that are behind you. I think this is a great piece, and I think it's got legs. I would kind of open things up to my fellow board members. Any comments you may have regarding this or questions that we might ask of them at this time, and then we'll go from there. Does anyone have any questions or comments, or have you had a chance to digest it thoroughly yet?
I'd be interested in knowing where the staff interfaced with this. Did you help them do this? This is strictly on their own. Mm-hmm. Does the staff have any comments to make?
I think at this point we've looked at it. There are some issues that I think that we have as far as the legality of some, even though I guess it's been talked about, it's been run by the Institute of Government, but I think that there are several things in the proposed ordinance that I can't say legally we can't do possible, but I think that they would bring a lawsuit against us. So, like I say, we didn't see this until last week, and just seriously just passed it along.
Let me say this. A couple of things that I ran across, and maybe I interpreted this incorrectly. It appeared that, and this is an example, I think, of what John's probably talking about. There appears on, the pages are not numbered, but it's page 3 of the proposed ordinance. And I'm not really wanting to debate this right now. I'm just throwing out a comment, my observation. There appears to be maybe a contradiction about where this deed of trust, where it would stack up with regard to the lender and this type of thing. In one location, and it's subparagraph C, it's on page 3, and it's the paragraph second from the bottom. It talks about such covenant shall be superior to any liens or encumbrances upon the property and prior to the issuance of the occupancy permit, et cetera, et cetera. Then down below, of course, it says that the lender's deed of trust would have superiority to it. So I think it needs to be. I think we need to get staff and the Pisgah Legal Service Group together over the next week or so and try to review this and. It's got a little hair on it, I guess. It's Clay Mooney taught me that, Bob Grasso. That was it. I stole that one, but it does, and I think we need to try to get staff and you folks together. There's 2 or 3 things in there.
I did want to address, if I could, the concerns about a lawsuit. I completely understand and respect that that would be a concern. And in our research that we've done, the types of ordinances that have brought about lawsuits have been mandatory ones, not voluntary. And that's a big difference about this ordinance, is that the density bonuses in this type of arrangement are voluntary.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that that point was made.
Okay.
The only places where these types of ordinances have been found not to pass muster is where it is a requirement forced upon a developer rather than something where the developer has the choice or not the choice. But I certainly do see the potential for an issue regarding the priority of liens under subsection C and subsection 7 or section 7. And so that's something that I would be really happy to work with the county attorney's office or staff to see whether we can bring that forward. I would like to also say the sooner the better on this. We would like to get this thing back in front of you at the very earliest opportunity so that we could, potentially get this thing into law. We see this as really both an economic advantage to the county as well as something that will really provide the housing that is necessary.
I think it's a great idea.
Are there any other specific concerns other than the deed of trust priority and liens issues that we would have?
Well, I'll throw out a couple more that I came up with. I don't know whether this would be treated as an overlay map or whether we'd create new districts.
This was to be treated expressly as
an overlay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then somehow we've got to figure out how we equip staff if this goes through and passes with the means and methods, I guess, for lack of a better term, of as these units become built or whatever, who's going to monitor? How do we monitor that 50% of the units are being occupied by those that are at that income level of 46 or less? There's some things, that type of stuff. So unless anyone else has any other ideas or comments, I would recommend and encourage both staff and the county attorney's office, as well as our staff, planning staff, to get with you guys as soon as possible and kind of retool some of these items or clarify them and get back with us. Is that fair? Is that reasonable for everybody over there?
Yeah. I'd like to support you, Tom, on that. As we all know, zoning has been a contentious issue in our county off and on for many years, and we're finally there,
Right.
whether you like it or not. So we and the commissioners have all worked hard on this over the years. I'd like to see the implications, for example, this would have on where you're overlaying all these various districts, and what are the implications of that. I'd like to see the staff come back and tell us if there are any downsides to any of this, in addition to the legal issues. But I think it requires a little more study. At the same time, there's not a person sitting here that doesn't recognize that we need affordable housing. We need work housing, and we all know that.
What would be helpful for me really is, and I think, Joe, I think this echoes what you were saying, if we kind of had a visual talking about the half-a-mile districts on either side of 4-lane thoroughfares, that type of thing, kind of see how what that abuts up against things. Some of that would be helpful for me when we get together next
We can
time.
bring a map in next time.
Yeah. Is that, Joe, is that what you were thinking too? I mean, that visuals kind of help me.
Visual helps.
Yeah.
I'm visual too.
We want to make sure that when we come back here, we have all your questions answered. And, we really strongly believe, as board members have indicated, that this is a good proposal. And we don't want it to fail down the line on a legal basis any more than any of you do. And we want to make sure that it's done prudently, so that you have knowledge of what's going to be affected. And so we're happy to pull up our sleeves with staff and see what we can do to make this thing so that it ticks like a fine clock.
Well, if you'd do so as soon as possible, coordinate it through John, I guess, coordinate through you, scheduling for the two of you to get together, I'd appreciate it, and get back with us.
I'd
But
like to say one thing, Tom. if you
Sure.
don't mind. I would like you also to look at the restrictive covenants under paragraph A, number 4. I think that was kind of what you're talking about, but the certification process, I mean, who is that? How is that implemented?
Mhm.
I mean, I think details in that would be helpful. Folks will really know how they can qualify. Developers are going to really understand, is this going to work on a cash flow basis with the folks that are coming in? But I like it. You're right. Construction needs jobs. Workforce needs jobs. We do have a problem with it. And I love density, moving up on one, instead of moving out. I think that this is really something that we can get behind. It's going to help those folks who need housing, and I absolutely agree with you. This construction industry needs some help, and it might make the difference when you increase density to someone moving forward or not with a project in this county, and it's really, really, I think, important. But I would say a couple of those tweaks as well.
Okay,
We'd
thank
be
you.
happy to. Mr. Chairman, a request then, if I could.
Okay.
Because I want to move as quickly as we possibly can. Is it possible at this time that we can reset this for the next meeting? And we will work diligently with staff to get that done. Or when is the next available time we can bring this to the
Our
floor?
next meeting's a week from today.
Yeah, I think our next meeting's
Because of
week.
the
I think
holidays.
it would be the first meeting in October
Yeah.
would probably be the
That
earliest.
would be plenty of time.
Yeah.
In that case, and I may be speaking out of turn procedurally, but we would ask that we get this thing back on an agenda on the first week in October so that we have the capability of bringing this thing forward.
Well, that'll kind of be in your ball court with staff, I guess. We would certainly, as you can, I think I echo what everybody else
Yeah,
said here. We'd love to.
I do think
we like it.
the need to construction industry winter's coming.
Yeah.
So if there's any kind of projects that we can get done right now, I mean, some folks really need to have some work
Absolutely.
before winter happens. So I don't know if that is possible
Yeah.
or not, but
Roll up your sleeves, and we appreciate it. We
Sharpen the
really
pencils.
do. You did a good job, and again, you're be commended, and those that support you with this
Thank you.
idea.
We appreciate the positive comments
Oh,
so
yeah.
much, and we'll work on the
Excellent
problems
idea.
that you've
Thank you.
identified.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there was anybody else who was here to speak on this today either. I don't know if anybody.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak regarding this? Appears not to be.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time and your effort. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a request from Hill Plantation for variance. Mr. Grasso, if you would come forward and introduce yourself and your guest and let us know what you'd like to do, we'd appreciate it, and then we'll hear from staff.
Mr. Chairman, they are asking for preliminary approval of a major subdivision as well as those variances.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Paul Sexton, the surveyor on the project. I represent Wells Fargo, the bank that owns the property. Rose Hill is an existing approved project. It is a condominium project. Because of the present environment, the condominiums aren't selling because people cannot get financing for condominiums. So the bank is looking for us to get it replatted as a major subdivision with fee simple lots as opposed to the condominiums. So and I was not the original land planner on the project, but I was brought in to assist in getting it replatted. When we, nothing has changed from the original land plan. The number of units, the spacing, everything is the same. All of the roads have been built. We've had the center lines verified that nothing exceeds 15%. That the road center lines meet all of the county standards. So what we have here is two one-way streets in the original design that have 12-foot wide roads and 30-foot wide right-of-ways. And with the way it's laid out, we're kind of painted in a corner. I'd say it has hair on it, but I've lost so much. Bernie doesn't use that term either because he's
It might be my hair.
yeah. But so what we're requesting are, along with the preliminary plat approval, are two variances. One is the road width, and I might add that the back when the project was originally approved, the fire marshal had approved the 12-foot wide roads. We have valley gutters so that if there is an emergency vehicle that is blocking the road, another emergency vehicle could pull off and drive through the lawn so that they could pass each other. So that's not a concern as far as whether emergency vehicles can get past each other. They are not collector roads. They're just two secondary roads in the project. As far as the right-of-way, we're kind of stuck with that too because the way the units are laid out, we don't have room to widen it to a 45-foot right-of-way. And so we're kind of stuck with the 30 feet. So we're kind of is what it is, and what we're trying to do is make this real estate more saleable by converting them to fee simple lots. We had a community meeting. There are presently, I think, 5 property owners? 10, excuse me. And the majority of the property owners were there, and they were all unanimous. And in the packet that we presented to you was the minutes of that meeting. They were all in favor of converting their condominiums to a townhouse, fee simple lot residence. So we've got the support of the property owners. And right now, we have our attorney is rewriting all the documents so that they will go from condominium association documents to property owner documents and all the associated other documents that go along with that. So that's being done. Paul Sexton with Brooks Engineering was the original surveyor, and he has all the data that it would just take to convert these condominium lots to fee simple lots.
Okay, Bob, I appreciate it.
Paul, do you have anything to add?
No, just, if anybody has questions as far as the layout or the lots, here to answer any questions.
Okay, Joe, do you have something?
When was this originally approved?
Well, it didn't get a subdivision approval because it was condominium, so and prior to zoning, so it was not approved through the planning department.
Okay. And when was it completed?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was
2005
around
or 6.
2006.
So if the planning department didn't approve it, who did?
It got stormwater and erosion approval.
And the fire marshal did review the drawings too.
So I haven't seen it, so it's all built out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All built out.
yeah.
It just doesn't have a number of, only has a handful of houses in it. It's not built out from a standpoint of houses,
Of houses.
but all the roads and infrastructure is there.
Yeah, so it'd be townhouses and they wouldn't touch.
That's correct. Mhm. They'll be, yeah, detached.
How is parking handled?
In the
Well-
driveways,
Off-street parking, how is that handled?
garages and driveways.
Yeah, so there's room for two
Mhm.
and all that.
It got stormwater approval April 2007.
Okay.
Can I ask, there's been some community issues with runoff off that. Have y'all looked at that and that whole area in the back? I mean, it's kind of an issue on the ground. Or in
Pardon me, I couldn't hear
there's
you.
kind of an issue out there with folks concerned about runoff on that back hill. And a lot of folks were talking about it. So the stormwater plan would just translate, or would they have to reapply?
They wouldn't have to reapply. I've talked to Doug Sharp in erosion control, which that would be the runoff issue. And I think they've done a lot of work out there to address those issues.
Okay.
So Doug's okay with it, and Goodson's okay with it.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Sounds like y'all are
We're trying to keep it all in compliance.
clean it, handling it again out there, so.
Anyone else have any comments?
So there've been no stormwater issues, everything's worked fine.
It also has, community water and has a septic system, community septic.
Joe, there was stormwater issues, but I believe they fixed them.
Was it?
Yeah,
Was it on that
from the original
north side?
developer, the stormwater pipe separated. And actually, I've got to, once again, excuse myself from the vote on this, because I did the geotech for the new potential owner. But that was the first thing that they did when they were looking at it, was try to button down those pipes and fix that.
Is that going down to the big pond on the
Yes.
north side?
Yeah, on that side.
Do the homeowners pay for the maintenance of the stormwater system?
Yes, that's all part of and then that's part of converting it from a condo to a property owners association.
And the issue was with the previous owners.
Right.
The
original
issue that arose was folks that are not involved with the project to date.
Right.
Just want to make that clear.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, is the clubhouse, swimming pool, and tennis court, is that all functional, or is that something yet to be done?
That's in.
That's all done?
That's where we held our community meeting.
The development is completely built as far as infrastructure, the roads, the clubhouse.
I'm sorry.
The development is completely built as far as infrastructure, the roads, the clubhouse. So if y'all approve the variances and the preliminary approval, they just need to certify that everything was built to county standards, and then we can go ahead and sign off on their final plat.
Subject to the variances. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else have any questions, comments?
What's the average floor space?
Boy, Robert Slasky is the builder. 1,700 to 2,000.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this is bank-owned real estate at this time, is that
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
And the price point on these things?
230 to 250.
230 to 250. Thank you.
Okay.
It's been sitting there for a while with nothing
Yeah.
going on.
Right, and this will really help spur sales. People just can't get
Financing.
mortgages or
Yeah.
any kind of money
On a
for
condo.
condominiums.
Yeah.
Or no.
Yeah, they won't finance them.
Yep,
There's not,
banks won't do it.
there's no money.
Staff, do you have anything? Miss Debbie?
I think it's pretty much been said. Infrastructure is in, and we just ask that when you vote on the variances, if you would hold a vote for findings of fact, and then for the variance itself, do the road width variance and then the right-of-way variance separately before you have a vote on approval of the preliminary plan.
Okay, thank you.
And the fire marshal's okay with this?
Yes.
Okay.
Did he say the fire marshal okayed it?
Yes.
The road
but-
width?
He has.
Okay, that's the only thing I was concerned about as a former fire chief for 40 years.
Yeah.
People don't realize those trucks weigh 20 tons or more. And if you get off in the grass and there's not long, you got a mud hole, especially if you're in there on a working structure fire for some length of time. But this is not too deep. I don't believe it'll have too much problem.
Okay. Okay, anything else from the board? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to either accept.
And Mr.
Excuse
Chairman,
me,
just,
Mike.
excuse me, someone's going to have to move, and we need a second and a vote on Bernie's comment regarding his involvement with the project before. So if
Yeah,
he's not
he
going
needs
to
to
vote,
abstain from voting.
well, technically, the board has to approve that and vote him out.
I'll
Say
make a
it's okay
motion.
that.
I'll make a motion to recuse Bernie.
I'll second it.
Poor old Bernie.
Okay. All in favor of recusing Bernie from the voting process regarding this request for variance at Rose Hill Plantation, please say so by indicating aye. Aye. All opposed, no. You are now officially recused. Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to either accept or deny the requested variances as presented by Mr. Grasso and his client. Do I have a motion to accept or either deny?
If you could do the variances
It's
separately.
been so long since we've done this. I forgot all the protocol, I promise you.
We have some worksheets supplied if the one making the motion
Okay.
cites numbers 1 through 3, and then either 4A or 4B.
Got you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And as always, feel free to throw in any other findings of facts or information that you found pertinent to the discussion, including the comments by Mr. Grasso and others.
Okay. Okay. The request for a motion, either way, stands.
Yeah, that's it.
Would anyone like to move to accept the request for variance or
Do you
deny?
have to do them separately, or?
Yeah, they have to be separate.
We're going to do each
You go
variance.
first, Joe.
Yeah,
Okay.
each variance. Well, I'll read one of them, but I need to know if anybody has anything to add or take away. I guess, let's see.
Just to note where the findings of facts come from is from the applicant. It's that worksheet that it's part of the application. It's behind the worksheet, but that's where I get those findings of facts, is their answer to the 3 standards for a variance from the subdivision ordinance.
Is there anything we need to discuss? Like the one here has these memos or emails from Cynthia Barclay. Is there anything of note that she? I'm looking at the wrong one. I am. Yeah, I am. Okay. Sorry.
And I guess one other thing, just to make sure we have all this technicality straightened out, since none of us have done this in a while, but I think it's always appropriate to ask the presenters if they're familiar with the information on the application and if all that information is true and accurate to the best of their belief.
Do I need to rephrase that?
No,
Yeah,
I think that flies.
Yeah.
I made out the application. It is true. And
Okay.
what else do I need to say?
Accurate, factual, yeah. Thank you, Bob. Okay, Joe, you want to try one of them out? The right-of-way or the pavement width?
Not doing too well, I hope. Okay. So we're doing Rose Hill. All right. I guess I'll just do the one with the pin 8791448768. So I'll do that one. And there's the application. So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Based upon the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits: the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, which we have, the findings of fact worksheet, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact. Number 1, the property located on Rose Creek Road and having PIN number 8791448768 is requesting a variance from the Buncombe County Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance. Number 2, application is a request for a variance from 7067 paragraphs 2E1 to allow a 12-foot pavement width on Southern Way Lane and Regents Heights Road, which the applicant is proposing be one-way roads. Number 3, that 70-10 of the Buncombe County Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance was used to evaluate this request. So moved.
I'm sorry? 4A is to approve.
Yeah.
The actual items, and Joe, you can say 4A as submitted in the packet. You wouldn't have to read them.
Okay. So the motion includes the submission of 4A as indicated in the packet.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any further discussion regarding the proposed amendment, variance request from Mr. Grasso regarding Rose Hill Plantation for modifying the pavement width to 12 feet? Any further discussion regarding that? No. Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Okay. All right,
can we do the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, should I go for it?
Please.
Mr. Chair, based on the evidence presented to the board, including the following exhibits, petitioner's applications.
They need to make a motion to approve the variance.
Sorry.
So you make a motion for, I'm sorry, I know
No.
it's really confusing. Make a motion for the findings of fact, and then you make another motion to approve the variance. The
Okay.
first motion is for the findings of fact.
On the first variance.
On the first.
So we're going to do this all over again?
Yes.
I was like, okay. So I make a motion to approve the variance
Yes.
as stated by Joe.
Yes.
I second.
Okay, we've got a second by Catherine, I believe. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, now that takes care of the pavement width, right?
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to the right-of-way variance that's been requested.
So, Mr. Chair, Right.
Please.
Based on the evidence presented to the board, including the following exhibits, petitioner's application, submitted development plan, the findings of fact worksheet, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact 1 through 3, specifically in more detail that allows the 30-foot right-of-way on the southern lane of, I can't pronounce it, Heights Road.
Region
And
Heights. Yeah.
Thank you. Also to include finding of fact 4A.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Mr. Holmes. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Then on the variance itself.
On the
Variance
variance
itself.
I'll move to adopt the variance. Is that
Approve
sufficient?
the variance.
Approve the variance.
Second?
Okay, we have a second by Mr. Sackler. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
And the preliminary plan.
Do we have it? I mean, I know what you're saying, but I don't have it in my packet.
The,
I don't think. Talking about this?
there are no conditions, but because this was condominiums, the preliminary plan has never been approved, so we need to
I
approve
understand.
their plan as well.
That's what we were looking at.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the plan for Rose Hill Plantation. Is that correct? Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you. We have a motion to approve the plan, the condominium plan of Rose Hill Plantation. We have here a second.
Second.
Second for Mr. Phillips. Any further discussion?
I
Okay.
assume the staff approves. You're
It-
you're recommending approval.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. I think we're through. Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. Good luck.
That was a mess.
Okay. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a request from Kashmir Subdivision, which is located out at Cane Creek and Mills Gap Road, for a variance as well, and Mr. Davis will be making that presentation. Gary, introduce yourself, please, and carry on.
I'm Gary Davis with Davis Civil Solutions. We're the engineers for the project. The project was originally approved in '06, I believe it was.
2005.
2005, actually. So it's gone through, it was under an original, a different developer at that time, different engineer, different parties. The project has gone back to the bank. The bank owns it now and in the process of selling it to a Mr. J. Mock out of Florida. And with a local builder here. It consists of 38 lots, and we're in the process now of trying to close the whole project out. The final plat was never approved. Part of the issues were to get the roads, final certification on the roads, final certification on the water, and the flood issues with FEMA letter of map revision submitted. All the infrastructure's in, the roads have been constructed, the curb and gutter's in, the stormwater's in, the water lines are in, everything is in, and we're asking for 2 variances. Everything meets the county's approval or requirement except for 2 issues. In the upper left-hand corner and the lower right-hand corner on the map that you've got are 2 curves. Those curves are less than the 90-degree or the 90-foot radius required by the county. That if it's less than 90 feet, the ordinance requires the pavement to be widened in those areas, and which was not done under the original construction. The Fire Marshal Tim Gentry has looked at that and reviewed that and has approved it. I don't know if approval is the right word, but he sent an email saying he accepts it. There is another variance. The other variance is at the intersection where it comes off of Mills Gap Road and goes into the loop. That intersection, across the intersection, has a grade of greater than 10%. It's actually 11.7%, which is just slightly higher, but it exceeds the ordinance, and they're asking for a variance on that.
Okay.
Everything else meets the requirements.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Does anyone have any questions regarding to this request?
Gary's the infrastructure in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, stormwater's in, water system is being flushed and rechlorinated as we speak, and we're trying to close it out with the county, and as-built has been created, but not submitted until we get the final little dot the i's and cross the t's.
Curb and gutter?
Curb is in, stormwater, all the inlets are in, everything is in. We're working with the flood, it's in a floodplain, the road crosses that. The no-rise was done by a different engineer, and as you know, things with FEMA take quite a bit of time, but we're doing a letter of map revision, and that's in process as well, which will cover that issue.
Okay. Is the owner, I noticed, I guess in the application, we've got Mountain First Bank as well as Robinson Creek 34 LLC. Is it dual ownership right now?
Right now, the bank is, it's been interesting working with the bank. We had to get a NCDOT driveway permit, and even though it's already constructed, the bank wouldn't sign it. So the developer, the new owner, has signed it, and what they're doing is releasing properties, I think 6 at a time, in order to.
I got you.
They're not. Banks are just skittish.
I got
with
you.
everything right now. So they did release the first 6, and they're getting ready to start those. The local builder is Matt King. He did Birdsong out at the other side of Otane. If you have been there, you'll know what they look like. They're smaller homes, 16 to 1,800 square feet, built on a crawl space. Average price is probably somewhere between $170 and $220, somewhere like that.
I'll need to recuse myself. Our firm has provided surveying for this project, but I'll state or just kind of restate something Gary said. This development was completely done before Gary's client moved to purchase it. The roads were paved, stormwater measures installed, and even curb and gutter, and that was all done outside of requirements for that time. It's actually a very well done subdivision, or well done development that just never they never recorded a plat.
Okay.
The original developer went under before finalizing everything in the process.
If I could go back to Cynthia Barklow's email, then I have to assume where she, in her last paragraph, that we're okay with what she's saying there, that if only a road variance is being requested for what has been installed, no lot lines are changing, the revised floodplain maps are used, and no further work is done within the floodplain. I'm still on the wrong one.
Yes.
Okay.
She had comments on
I
both
guess I
of
better
those
go home.
that were on the agenda
We
for
fell out
today.
of training. It's been so
That's
long
okay.
since we've had.
She
We're
did,
really
um,
excited to have 2 plans.
I'm glad to help you with your process of learning
I'll
here.
pass.
Well, Cynthia Barklow is, administers the floodplain
Yep,
ordinance, and she did her comments on this project where that she would need a no-rise for the as-built, since the original installer did not complete that, and then they would need to apply for a letter of map revision. She has since received the no-rise certification, and so the letter of map revision is the only thing left to be approved.
And just to note, Cynthia, I think, has agreed to allow them to pull the building permits, but the certificate of occupancy won't be released, that was the word, until the letter of map revision is approved.
Help me out. We're talking about Kashmir, right?
Yes.
Okay. On her memo, it says Kashmir.
Yeah.
And then you go right down here, and this is under Kashmir.
She's got both. They're both in there, Joe. Rose Hill and Kashmir.
There's a second part of the subdivision that they're not even working on getting platted yet. The roads aren't constructed. That portion is in the floodplain. So I think when they get to that portion, they're going to need to deal with Cynthia and get a flood development permit.
No, that's what I was
Okay.
saying.
But if you look on the plans, it's that first part before you cross the river. There would be two roads, or the plans that were approved were two roads going out, but in the floodplain.
The part that was constructed crosses the creek and then goes the loop around the
Right.
other side.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board to Mr. Davis?
Not me.
Okay. Don't be shy.
Any other emails?
Yeah. Staff comments?
As Mr. Davis said, the infrastructure is all in there already. They do need the two different variances. We'd ask that you hold the votes like you did with Rose Hill, where you have a vote on the findings of fact and then the variance itself, and the two variances separately. Okay. And I did just want to clarify one thing. They have recorded a plat for this phase of the subdivision. They put up a guarantee of improvements that for everything that needs to be finished out, either to receive these variances or to go back and rework those roads, and then for any floodplain, any work that has to be done to get those floodplain contingencies cleared up.
Okay.
Did the fire marshal seen this?
And the fire
Okay.
marshal.
That
has
was the other
approved
thing.
this, Yes.
Okay. Mike, did you have something?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman, and for Mr. Davis here, you're familiar with the application for Kashmir, and you've read it and understand it's all true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then a little while ago, Josh moved to recuse Bernie. Maybe Bernie can return the favor here for Josh.
Provide us with a motion.
I make a motion that we accept Josh's reclusion from this vote.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Okay, that's Mr. Sales, right?
Correct.
You made that, okay. Any further discussion about the recusal of Josh from the vote regarding the Kashmir Subdivision variance request? Okay, having heard none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Let me ask you this. Are we supposed to have, I don't think there's anyone here to comment publicly, but are we supposed to have public comment at this time that we didn't last time? I just dawned on me. We're rusty. Is there anyone that would like to come forward to comment regarding the request from Kashmir Subdivision from two variances related to our existing ordinance? Anybody behind the column there?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll close the public comment period. Okay. The chair would entertain a motion first to adopt the finding of facts related to the first variance request, and that is regarding the road width where the radius is less than 90 feet. And
Mr. Chair, how's
please.
that? Based upon the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits: petitioner's application, submitted development plan, findings of facts of worksheet. Do I need to add that later we'll have a map of revision at any point? Y'all, the map of revision, did we need to add that in here at all? Okay, that's going to come. I move that this board adopt the following findings of facts 1 through 3, a little more specifically to allow the pavement width of 18 feet wide on Stillwater Lane. And also 480, the application does meet the requirements for granting a variance by demonstrating unnecessary hardship on the owner for the following reasons.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pace. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Catherine. Thank you. Any further discussion regarding the motion regarding the finding of fact related to Kashmir Subdivision's request for a variance? Okay. Having heard none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay. We need another motion related specifically to the variance, to approve the variance as it relates to the road width. Right.
Grade.
Is it? No, the road
At
width.
18 feet.
We got everybody confused. We're still on the road width.
Pavement widths.
Yeah. Yeah, next will be the percent of grade, I believe.
I move that we accept that.
Okay,
I'll second adoption of the variance.
thank you. Any further discussion regarding road width?
I would like, just like to ask Gary, what consequences, if any, are there for the residents with, I mean, it's already in existence, but,
Really, it's just because it didn't have the extra, the concern is can the fire truck maneuver the curb? And
Yeah.
staff has gone out, this fire staff has gone out and said yes.
I'm sorry?
The fire marshal has gone out and said yes, it can maneuver the curb.
Okay, so you don't have to back up,
No.
and go again, and that kind of thing.
The idea is if you had a subdivision where you're not, or an area where you're not crawling through, as it were, in a small subdivision like that, if you were going at a higher speed, you might have a little bit more maneuverability problem in having to get into the other lane. But here, he can just traverse the road. There is really no center line lane marked, so he can use the whole width to get across.
Thank you.
But, I don't see a problem.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second on the table. We've had some discussion. Is there any other regarding the variance motion for the width related to the Kashmir subdivision? Okay, having heard none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. We need one more motion. Is that correct? And that would be, two more actually, one more subject. And this one relates to the variance request where the grade is like 11.7%, and our ordinance requires a grade of 10% or less. So we need a motion regarding the finding of fact first. I'm getting there.
Mr. Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits, the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, and the findings of fact worksheets, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact. 1, 2, and 3 is outlined in our handout, in specific to the 11.7% grade on Stillwater Lane, which is greater than the 10% called for in the ordinance. In addition, this application does meet the requirements of granting a variance by demonstrating an unnecessary hardship on the owner for reasons A through C, as outlined in our.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kessel. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Phillips. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, one more motion, and that's with regard to approving the variance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the variance.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Kessel. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll
Okay.
get right back on that.
Okay. I got you. Okay. All right, the next item on our agenda is related to the discussion of possible zoning map amendments as it relates to the Asheville Regional Airport and a couple surrounding tracts of land. You've been given some mapping here provided by Josh and staff. And I'll give you a brief background, and Josh, then I'll ask you to jump in if you would. As I think everyone knows and has read in the paper recently, the last session of the General Assembly passed a law whereby the control of the Asheville Regional Airport Authority, the board was, abolished, and they've got a new board out there, and the property's been taken away from the city, their control, City of Asheville's control, and so forth and so on. Well, part of that is the property itself has been taken from the city, is my understanding. You stop me any time if I'm out.
Just the zoning control.
It's the zoning control, okay. And but what they've mandated that we do as the Buncombe County Planning Board is now apply a zoning designation to that property. In your packet, I don't know whether you took time to read it, but it's a copy of the House bill that was approved that created this legislation. If you would, Josh, step on in and give us a little more detail on the background, if you would, or explain what we need to do here today.
Okay. Just to back up a little bit, this also includes, so there's two actions that this act put forward. The first one was the airport that you already discussed, and the second is the Western North Carolina Agricultural Center. That property is actually being removed from the corporate boundaries of the city of Asheville and being put completely within Buncombe County's jurisdiction. Both of those properties collectively need to have some type of zoning designation, like you said, from Buncombe County. Let's flip to my maps here. So what we've created for you is a series of 3 maps. The first map that I'm looking at is just the bright blue outline with no cross-hatching, and that shows publicly held properties. And by publicly held properties, we mean those that are under the control of the Airport Authority or the Western North Carolina Agricultural Center. The second map that you have is very similar. It's got orange outline around the privately held properties. The reason that those are being discussed today is the group of properties on the eastern boundary of that map are currently unzoned because of the requirements of zoning in North Carolina. We were unable to zone those initially, but now that we have property adjacent to it, we can move forward with zoning. So we wanted to do this all at one time rather than to continue to come to you with a series of rezonings. The same with the very small portion of property on the western boundary. That's actually a portion of an existing parcel that's zoned RLD, so we're proposing that be zoned at this point as well. The recommendation would be that those publicly held properties, or suggestion rather, the planning board would be responsible for making a recommendation to proceed forward with this, but that those publicly held properties be zoned public service. We believe that at this time that's the best fitting district that we've got. The privately held properties to the eastern boundary, that those be zoned EMP. It's an area of existing industrial or commercial property. And the property to the western boundary, that's just that small portion, we would suggest that it be zoned RLD to match the rest of that lot boundary. I'll also note that we have Mike here, who's the airport's Deputy Director of Development and Operations, who can answer any questions.
Okay.
I've got one question, just to be sure. The Underwood area road property that you're suggesting EMP, is everything in that district in compliance at this point? In other words, none of these people are going to have to come back for a rezoning from the current use. I realize they would be grandfathered. What I'm saying is,
that's right.
Is there any non-conforming uses for EMP there now?
As best we can tell, EMP would be our most permissive district other than open use, so it would be very hard for them to have
anything
any kind of non-conforming
comply.
use. The only issues may be setbacks, which would occur with any district.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Did you say that the airport would still remain within the city limits, but they would not have zoning control? The county would have zoning control?
Correct. That's the text of that state law that was passed. It essentially switches the chapters that they're covered for the development portion, which is what zoning and building permits, any kind of development is under. It takes it out of the city's development control while still leaving it as a city property on the tax rolls or jurisdictional maps.
Do we have any other situations like that?
I believe this is the only one that I'm aware of in Buncombe County.
And the Ag Center is clearly in the county.
The Ag Center at this time will revert to county, yes.
Thank you.
With regard to the properties on Underwood and Bran Rig, Why was it that those weren't zoned previously?
The state of North Carolina requires that in order to zone in a county, you have 540 contiguous acres. So they were kind of locked out by other existing municipal boundaries, and we weren't able to zone them. That occurs in several areas of the county. So now that we have zoned land adjacent, it's an appropriate time to move forward with that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So this is not related to the airport issue as such?
No.
And the same for this little guy?
Correct.
Okay. Procedurally, what we're here to do today, I think, is literally to discuss this and establish a public hearing date at our October meeting. Is that correct? I'd like to give Mike an opportunity to speak today, if you would, Mike, too. Is that, am I right,
That's correct.
protocol-wise?
The sample resolution that you have before you just allows us to advertise that public hearing and shows the suggested zonings or rezonings that we put forward so that we can advertise that and alert the public to the public hearing.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions at this time of Josh? We'll have an opportunity at our October meeting as well, but does everyone kind of understand how this all evolved? Okay. Would you like to come up and speak to us, Mike? Introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mike Reisman. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the Asheville Regional Airport and the new Greater Asheville Regional Airport Authority now. Everything that Josh explained is pretty accurate. It's a little bit complex in terms of how this all worked out with the legislation. Probably the one thing that may be valuable to point out is that the land that encompasses the airport, while the title to that property has been in the name of the city, that was really done as a necessity. The airport authority has always actually owned the land. We paid for the land. We've reimbursed the city for the land. However, because the way that the state law was reads, and the way the prior airport authority was formed, we were prohibited as an organization from actually owning title to land. So while we paid for all the land, the city held the title to it for convenience purposes. So a lot of the discussion about whether the city is actually losing land that was theirs is a little bit convoluted in that sense. But I believe everything else that Josh has provided is pretty accurate, and the portion about remaining within the city limits primarily for tax purposes obviously is one of those complex things. But we are obviously looking forward to being able to work with the county once this process is worked through. But I'd be happy to answer any other specific questions anybody may have.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions of Mike at this time?
I have, who controls where the Ag Center is?
It's a bit convoluted as well. A good portion of the Ag Center property used to belong to the Airport Authority, was purchased with federal funds. That property was released, so to speak, of its federal obligations a number of years ago. The city supposedly worked a deal with the state to sell them, to do a kind of a lease purchase of that land a number of years ago. There's a little bit of I'm going to reverse that actually. The state purchased the land from the city a number of years ago. However, the title to the land never actually got transferred to the state. That was one of the reasons why the state, as I understand it, worked this into this whole bill, was to resolve the issue over the fact that the state never actually got title to land that they paid the city for a number of years ago.
Has that been resolved?
It's being resolved as part of this overall process. And I believe that the language that was in this bill was supposed to help resolve all that.
I think NCDA and Consumer Services will be happy, because they were very much concerned. They had parcels and didn't have parking area and all because of the way this was drawn up.
Right, right. Like I said, very, very convoluted over the years, and it's been a number of years since that transaction took place. The state has records that they paid the city for the land, but there was never any action on the part of the city to transfer the ownership or the title of the land as a result, and this legislation, again, is intended to resolve that.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll just point out an omission on my part. The northern part of the airport property is actually existing land that is zoned by us. We are proposing to rezone that, or suggesting to rezone that from RLD to public service so that it's consistent with the rest of the airport.
Now, you mean the northern part, that's the part that abuts Penner Road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Goes out to Penner Road?
Runs to the river.
Okay.
Is it outlined in blue or not on the map?
It is outlined in
It
blue.
is.
It's
the
just
upper
shown in
northern
green.
section above the runway that's outlined in dark blue?
Correct. Yeah, and it's the one that you can't actually see the aerial clearly on because it's like a
Yeah.
highlighted in green.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Mike, we appreciate it. I
Thank you.
suspect we'll.
And I realize that from a legislative perspective, this was all pretty much just dumped in the lap of the planning staff
Yeah.
and this board here, but we appreciate everybody working.
That's the way
with
it
us
was
on
presented to me.
That's how it happened.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Mike. Thank you very much. Well, if there's no other comments regarding this proposed zoning map amendment, we'll go ahead and, if you would, staff, schedule a public hearing for our first meeting in October.
You should have a proposed resolution in your packet so that the board can move and make that resolution to set the public hearing. And by that resolution, you're also kicking off the idea that this process is moving forward. For
Okay.
public hearing.
I think it may be that only the chair has that resolution.
I think that's true, too.
I don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we need a motion related to this. Okay. Can I make the motion? Since I've got it? Okay. I will move that we adopt the resolution for the zoning map amendments at the Greater Asheville Airport, Regional Airport, whereas the Planning Board has reviewed the law, the session law that was adopted, and we reviewed it today, September 10th, 2012, and we've determined that action is necessary in order to bring certain properties under the zoning jurisdiction of Buncombe County, both as directed by the General Assembly and as other opportunities have arisen. And whereas pursuant to Section 78-717 of the zoning map ordinance, proposed changes or amendments to said ordinance may be initiated by the Buncombe County Planning Board, and whereas the Planning Board has discussed the zoning in the area and the parcels in question at its September 10th, 2012 meeting. Based on the facts as set forth above, the Buncombe County Planning Board hereby finds and concludes as follows. Number one, that the following map amendments are in order. Subparagraph A, that is to rezone tax lot pin numbers 9643, 388413. I'm just going to go on, etc. I don't need to read them.
You could just,
There's a
I don't
number.
have a copy of it, but you could just, the ones that are under airport or ag center control, PS, and then
Okay.
forward with that.
Okay. That the I'll amend this, and that the following map amendments are in order. That is that we rezone those tax lots that are identified on the mapping and that is currently under the control of Asheville Airport Authority. And skipping forward, that a public hearing should be scheduled by planning staff so that the planning board may hear public comment and make a recommendation to the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners regarding the above map amendments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that upon motion and second, the Buncombe County Planning Board hereby recommends as follows, that the Planning Board hereby directs the planning staff to schedule a public hearing for October 1st, 2012, as it is the next available meeting date at which the notification requirements may be met. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I could just have you amend your motion in that the publicly held lands under the Airport Authority and the Ag Center, we would propose those be public service, and then the few privately held parcels to the east, which are presently unzoned, would be zoned EMP, and then the one little parcel up here that's unzoned would be RLD on the west. I'm sorry.
well, I accept the amendment. Jillian, you have that down? Okay. Is that okay, Mike? Okay, to handle it that way. All right, so we need a motion to adopt the resolution as I presented it.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Phillips. How about a second?
I'll second that.
Got a second by Mr. Sales? Okay, thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Okay, having heard none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. Don't think we're going to have any. Patty? Having heard none, we will close the public comment session on our agenda. And our next meeting, are we having a meeting next week? Do we have anything to meet about next week?
Johnson, we did.
We're checking on that now.
Okay.
I don't have the answer, but we'll let you know very soon.
Okay, could I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Josh and Bernie.
See this
Yeah.
little portion?
Yeah.
Right.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
It's amazing how things change, isn't it?